All right. Welcome to Kata's House of Pain, also known as SEA crafting or reverse engineering. So a couple of you have been asking, hey, how the hell do I do reverse engineering? Well, hopefully this video will give you a good idea of what it is you need to do. So we're going to start off with what do you need to do reverse engineering? And there are a couple of different items. One, you're going to want this reverse engineering tool. You're going to want this to be max crafted, which means it will have an experimentation bonus of 10 involved. The other thing that you are going to need is this. This is the cybernetic deconstruction arm. You can get this from doing a surveying collection. Once you get everything in the surveying collection, you get the arm. You can check all of that out on the Wikipedia page at the SWGR website. It gives a little breakdown of some of that. A couple of the other things you're going to want is you're going to want a crafting suit. So this means you're going to want most of your items. For example, some bicep pieces, some bracers, some pants. You're going to want opportune chance on all of those. When it comes to your exotic slots, such as your chest piece, you're going to want to have opportune and reverse engineering chance on it. You're going to want that on your chest, you're going to want that on your shirt, and you're going to want that on your weapon. If you're like me and you have a super low level, you're only going to be able to use the decorative survival knife. So this will be the max that you can have on your weapon. I will say, even though I only have a reverse engineering chance of 3 on my chest plate, I do believe it is possible to craft in another 1 point on your chest piece. So that is something you could have. Some of the other equipment that makes it much, much better and easier is you're going to want the slicer set. So this is going to be 2 rings, a necklace, and 2 earrings. That's also going to give you bonuses for slicing. A couple of the other things you might want is you might want to have bonuses, such as an entertainer bonus. There is no reverse engineering bonus, so you're probably just going to want opportune chance with that. The last few items you're going to want to have with you are going to be reverse engineering power-ups. These can have a max of 11. 9s and 10s are pretty much the standard. If you can get your hand on one that has an engineering chance of 11, do that. Definitely worth it. And from there, we'll start going into how we do this. So I like to apply all my power-ups to my shirt, to my chest, and to my equipped weapon. I already have all my reverse engineering items on, such as my jewelry sets, my armor, my luck suit, all of those on. For the fun of it, I like a little bit extra opportune, so I also throw on some dust crate. And then we get to work. So first thing I'm going to show you is how do you break down an item and get something good out of it. So I've already kind of set these up here. These are items with stats of 22s, 20s. Looks like I got 20 to 22s. So you typically want 20 to 23, 23 being a stat that is the highest. A 23 can usually give you a pretty good roll at the end. The other thing you're going to want is you're going to want these RE enhanced modules. These can be made in crates of 100. Quality of 100 is what you are wanting out of these. And I'll show you what you do with those. Pop open your handy dandy reverse engineering tool. Again, you want that tool to be at max of 10. Throw in one of these reverse engineering enhanced modules. It then shows that your tool has a quality bonus of 100. Again, we've already put in our power-ups, we've already put on our food, we got our inspiration bonus. We threw in our enhancement module. We then throw in our piece of stat junk, and we reverse engineer. Hey, look at that. We got a 35 out of that one. That's a super lucky roll. Let's see if we can keep that up. So the rest of these, that one was a 22 stat we broke down. The rest of these are going to be 20s. Let's see what we get. All right, we got a 30. $31. Another 31. Hmm, 28 happens. And a 29. Okay, so we broke down our 6 items. We got 135. The rest of them, we got low 30s, super high 20s. That's pretty much how it goes. So, since we went ahead and we got a 35, let's see what else we got here. All right, I got 2 35s on deck. And I think I have a third. All right, so we got lucky there. So what I'm going to show you next is, so you got these other ones here, these 30s, 31s, all of these. I'm actually going to use a, let's see here, I'm going to use my 33, and I want to get this 33 to 35. All right, so this is where your junk loot comes in. I have my junk loot broken down into certain stats. This is my range general stat. You got to take 2 pieces of junk gear. You can look at your reverse engineering tool and it will tell you what kind of modifier bit it will make. And so we're going to make a couple of range general stats. All right, so we got a couple of those now. Now, depending on what kind of crafter you are, depending on what kind of reverse engineering you do, that's going to dictate on what you use to roll up these items. So as an example, I'm a weaponsmith. I can make crates of decorative survival knives. They have to have a socket on them. So some people might make shirts. There might be one for armor, I'm not sure. I use decorative survival knives because this is what I can do. So now we want to get this 33 up to a 35. So we throw our 33 in. We throw the stat we want to create, range general. We make sure that we are on weapon tapes. And we create an SEA. We then take one of our trash knives, throw the SEA on top of it, throw that back into our reverse engineering tool, and we reverse engineer it. As you can see, it came out of 33 again. So we got to do this again. We create the SEA, throw it on the survival knife, do it again. Got a 33. We keep doing this until we get a higher stat. And I know it seems like it's not doing anything. This is 100% completely normal. This is why SEA crafting takes so much time. Oh, look at that. We got it up 1. We're now up to 34. We want to try getting it to 35. This is why SEA crafting takes so much time. For every 35, finally we got one. So that one took, we have 4 left here. I believe I made maybe 8 or 9. So we went through about 5 of these ranged modifier bits. to raise this from a 33 to a 35, which means it took in total these two pieces of stat loot, this junk loot, it took us 14 pieces of junk loot to create all 7 or whatever it was of these ranged modifiers. And it took about 4 or 5. So it took 10 pieces of junk loot just to raise that 2 points. Again, this is why SCA crafting takes so long. This is why SCA crafting can use a lot of resources very, very quickly, which is why I have a bunch of resources in here for range general. So we can go into that at a later date, but range general has the most possible combinations of junk loot, so it's usually the easiest stat modifier to craft. So that is how you roll up your bits. But now we're going to craft an SEA. So for the fun of it, we're going to put range general on it. We're going to put defense general on it, and we got to get one more. Let's see what we can get. So we have our junk loot separated alphabetically. It helps keep things in order a little bit. What I really want is an opportune chance. I might know the combination for it. Nope, that's a defense general. Dang, another defense general. Hey, why not? We'll do toughness boost, just to keep this training moving forward. We reverse engineer, we now have a toughness boost. So with this, we are making our standard 35 SEAs. These are for our general stats. These are for things that you see here, these 6 stats here. So these 6 stats, when someone says they need 35s for their SEAs, it takes 3 of these 35s. You saw how long it took us to roll up from a 33 to a 35. Now imagine doing that to 27 bits. So we are easily looking at like possibly hundreds of junk loot to get a full suit of SEAs. So again, that's why this craft sometimes takes a lot longer. It's a little intense sometimes. It's what we got to do. So, crafting our SEA. With your SEA tool, you can choose weapon type, you can choose clothing type, you can choose armor type. Armor is going to be the most used. That goes on everything from PSGs, boots, full sets of armor. The only thing clothing really goes on is shirts. The only thing weapons go on is weapons. There is some change up there when you start crafting for Jedis, but that is for a totally different time. So okay, so let's open up our items here. We have at least 4 35s. We only need 3. But let's see here. So let's start crafting. I know you guys can see that these have second on them, second order bits. We have a couple that have third order bits. I don't have any first order bits, but I'm going to explain to you what those mean. So a second order bit can be used as the first stat SEA or the second stat SEA. So let me show you what I mean by that. So we're going to create our armor tapes. Create SEA. All right, so now we have a 35 to range general for armor. We want to add another stat. We want to add defense general. We have another 35 second order. We put all 3 of these into the reverse engineering tool, create the SEA. We now have defense gen and range gen. Again, first order, second order, but now we want to add our third stat. So we want to add this toughness boost. We go to add a second order, and it says tool will not accept this item. Okay, so again, second orders can be used as the first and second stat. We actually have to have a third order stat in order to make the third stat in here. So how do we get a third stat? We have to take our 35 second, combine it with just a throwaway item. For me, again, we want this set to weapons because I use weapons to SEA craft. And we create our SEA. We have a 35 ranged. We put it on a knife. And instead of just breaking this down like we were when we were rolling our bits, we have to now take and use a piece of multi-stat loot. These can be any stats as long as there is more than one stat. So you take your 35 range knife that you created that you're going to break down. You take a piece of multi-stat loot and stick it in there. Again, this one was a second order bit whenever we put it together. We now reverse engineer this, and that multi-stat loot combined with our decorative survival knife that has an SEA on it, that multi-stat loot turns that 35 second into a 35 third. So now we can go back to crafting armor tapes. We can take the SEA we've been crafting for armor. We add our toughness boost, and now we can add our 35 third order bit. And there we have a 35 3-stat SEA. Again, most of these items I already had crafted beforehand, a lot of those 35s. Imagine doing this another 9 times over for a total of 27 35 second order pieces. That's why this takes so long. The other thing I'm going to show you is how to do some calculations. So take note here, this is a range general stat. This is typically what goes on to your 35s. It has a power conversion ratio of 1. So then you have to ask yourself, how many times can 1 go into 35? The answer is 35. So in order to get a maxed range general stat, you need to combine range general with a 35. Okay, that one I feel like makes a little bit more sense. But what about exotics? So where this gets a little bit different is we're going to go ahead and we're going to create an exotic here, not defense general. Perfect. Range defense. So there's ranged defense, there's melee defense. These are in exotics. We're going to reverse engineer this combination of junk loot. And now, instead of a power conversion of 1, like we saw in range general, range defense has a power conversion of 2. So you now ask yourself, how many times can 2 go into 35? Okay, so the answer to that is 2 can go all the way to 34, but it can't go to 36. So with that, 2 can be used with a 34 stat bit. And that's essentially what we're trying to do, is we are trying to figure out how many times can this number go into 35, or what can it go up to in 35. 2 can go up to 34. This also means that a 2 with a 34 bit is going to get you a plus 17 stat. I know that might seem a little confusing. I'll see if I have any other examples. Over here we have a medical assembly. Medical assembly has a power conversion of 3. What is the largest number that 3 can go into that was within 35? It can't go to 36 because that does not exist. But it can go to 33. So in order to get the max value out of this medical assembly, you need to combine it with a 33, which will give you an SEA stat of 11. Yes. If you combine this with anything lower than a 33, you're going to get a lower stat. So that is how you craft efficiently with exotics. Just to show you what I mean. We will use that medical assembly and we will create an SEA. So again, medical assembly has a power conversion ratio of 3. The max that 3 can go into 35 is 33, so we need to combine it with a 33 power bit. And this, together, 33 divided by 3 is going to give us a max stat of 11. Again, that is the max that it can be. If you were to combine this medical assembly with a ratio of 3 with a 32 or anything below 33, you're going to get a lower stat. If you combine a range general for your general stats with a power conversion of 1 with anything less than a 35, you're going to get less than a 35 SEA stat. Again, range defense, this is an exotic. It has a 2. It can go into 35 up to 34, giving us a max stat of 17. If you were to combine this range defense with anything less than a 34 power bit, you're going to get less than max stat. And that is the whole goal, is you always want to try making max stat SEAs, max stat items. All right, well, I think we went over just about everything. Didn't cover creating power bits. That's kind of a very similar item as creating SEAs. The only thing I would suggest when creating a power-up, which is like these guys here for these reverse engineering chances, you generally want to combine a 35 when you're creating a power-up. If you really want it to be max stat and increase your chances of getting it to be a max stat power-up, you're going to want to put it with a 35. Okay. Well, that is SEA crafting in a nutshell. Find me online, Guild Orion. You can find me as Volderic. You can find me as Kata, C-A-T-A. And, well, hope this reverse engineering class was at least somewhat helpful. Thanks. Okay, So before ending this video, I did at least want to show you guys where you can find more information to go with what I explained in the video. Head to SWGR.org, go to reverse engineering, and this gives you a breakdown of a whole bunch of stuff, some of it a little confusing, which is why I made the video. Shows you different setups, shows you what core stats are, gives you an idea of what exotics are, gives you an idea of what a crafting suit goes into, you know, having weapon assembly, experimentation, opportune chance, non-exotic slots, opportune chance, example combat SEAs, goes into reverse engineering tools, junk loot, whole bunch of stuff. You know, you create, how do you increase a power bit strength? This is what we were doing with rolling up bits. Take a power bit, modifier bit, create an SEA. Take that SEA, you put it on a decorative survival knife. You then take that socketed item and reverse engineer it, and then the power bit comes out stronger. This is what took us several times to do. How do you create multi-stats? There is a bunch of good information here on what you need to be a good reverse engineer. Creating SEAs, reverse engineering space equipment, totally different thing. Find somebody else who knows more about that than me, because I have no idea on space. But making SEAs, I can do that hella well. So again, things like the deconstruction arm give you an extra 5 points of reverse engineering. The power-ups, again, 10s are more common. Weapons, chest, shirt, everything you need, pretty great here at SWGR.org on their wiki page. The other thing being is, if you are serious about reverse engineering, you need to know about the SWGJunkyard.com. So here you can choose your server. You can say what you want to make. So this is all the different stats that are available in the game. All kinds of them. You know, there's a little bit of everything in here. I'm going for, let's see here. Gonna find one for us. Gonna do a quick reset on this. You got things like, you know, again, endurance, general stats, exotic stats, everything. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Range general. Hit submit. Shows you every combination of junk loot that results in a ranged general modifier bit. Over 230 pages worth. So again, when I say range general has the most combinations out of any other stat, there's a lot of ways to make a range general, which is why I personally used range general modifier bits for rolling up SEAs from, you know, 30s to 35s. I typically use range general. The other cool thing you can do is you can come and you can choose by junk loot. So let's say you want to make a range general, but all you have is a data disk. You can then submit that, and it will show you every combination of junk loot that you can combine with a data disk to get range general. Another thing you can do is just go by junk loot. So we got here Let's see if we can find a Gacklebat wing. This one's a pretty rare piece of loot. You're like, what the hell does this go into? What can I make with this? So you can see everything that can be made with a Gacklebat wing. Not that many combinations. And since we're here, just to show you one of the stat modifiers that has a very, very low combination, is we have two-handed lightsaber speed. So all the lightsaber speed modifiers take a very, very, very small group of combinations. So this one, definitely much more difficult to make because you have to find some of these very rare pieces of junk. Corrupt data disk, not too hard to find. But a human skull, very hard to find. A medic kit, kind of hard to find. An artifact, very hard to find. A lot of the things in these kind of specialized stat modifiers here that go into SEA crafting, these kinds of items come from doing heroic instances. And definitely the higher the difficulty, the greater chance you have of getting some of these items like an artifact. So again, wanted to end this video with, hey, if you are getting into SEA crafting, you're going to want to know the SWGJunkyard.com. Definitely go here. Check out the Wikipedia page. And that is it. Thanks for watching.